Pass podcast. I'm Ross Foreman, and we got a big one today. A new host for the show here today. So let me welcome in D'Lo Brown. D'Lo, how you doing today?
I'm fine, Ross. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. You look all studious there with the glasses.
Well, it's my new, color commentating look. I got to have the glasses on to look professional.
All right. Well, let me ask you flat out. What's it like to be in the broadcast booth?
It's pretty cool. It's two really big chairs to fill, and sitting there next to Stryker. We're trying to step in the footprints of guys like Matt Stryker and Taz and Tenay and Don West, and just trying to find our spot. So it's exciting to be in that chair. It's fun to call the action. It gives you that live adrenaline feel again. So I'm having a great time with it.
All right. Well, today we have media from literally around the world joining us today. So, media, I thank you. We're going to get to as many questions as we can in a limited amount of time. That said, let's welcome in our special guest, a guy who, about 9 days from today, turns a big 5-0. Tommy Dreamer, welcome.
Thank you for having me. My first one ever doing these. And D'Lo, you do look great. And for everyone watching and listening, the first sign of old age is when you have to look at your phone and then you go like that to your phone. And that means your eyesight's going. So that's the first thing. We're like, something's wrong with my damn phone because it's not my eyes.
That's exactly right, Tommy. I thought it was my phone for 6 months.
I wear contacts, and now I went to the eye doctor, and I have to wear reading glasses over my contacts to read. I was like, but I have corrective lenses. How bad is my vision getting? Anyway.
Well, Tommy, let's just ask you. Big day, February 13th on the Impact Plus app. No surrender. A 50th birthday gift from world champion Rich Swann. You get a title match.
Yeah. It's an amazing opportunity. And I always think of life kind of comes full circle. A long, long time ago in the land of extreme, a 26-year-old kid who was the real number one contender. He won it in a three-way, gave up his title shot for a 53-year-old man. And that man was Terry Funk. And that was for ECW's first ever pay-per-view. And now, in hindsight, I'm that guy who was given a gift by Rich Swann. And it's funny, too, that I've never given my response yet. And you're going to have to listen to my response on Tuesday's episode of Impact Wrestling because it's a lot to think about. I take a lot of pride in what I do. And yes, the fact that it was a gift and there are so many more deserving men and women in the back, but Rich asked for it and he has defeated everybody. And it's just, listen, when I started my career, when I started life, I thought 50 was like, you're a senior citizen. You have nothing left. I didn't think I would still be wrestling. I thought it was so old. And now I look at it and I'm just like, I don't feel old. I know I look old minus my new hair. And, but it's an amazing opportunity just to be doing this for 31 years and still literally living my dream. And I do love it. And I think Rich is an amazing pound for pound, one of the greatest champions and greatest wrestlers we've ever had in Impact. It's a great opportunity. And if I accept it, and there is a big if, it's something that I really, really, I cherish, and it's going to go down as a benchmark in my career.
Now, Tommy, I have a question for you. If you accept this challenge from Rich Swann, and I know already in your mind you've been planning what you may or may not do. What have you been doing differently to prepare yourself if you accept this challenge?
Well, the first thing when Rich, I mean, D'Lo, you were there. He kind of just called me out in the back. I was in the back, like getting ready to produce the next match. Like, you're alongside there. We're getting ready to go to work, and then you get called out. First thing that usually comes to my head is, oh God, how quickly can I lose weight? So what I've been doing is I've been dieting, I've been training, I've been doing cardio. I actually been going to Kurt Hawkins Creative Pro out in Long Island and training. And I haven't trained for a match in a long time. It's the biggest thing is your wind. And, you know, it's weird having crazy brawls like you do. You're able to, or a feud, or just like you're on a different type of adrenaline. But I'm going in there against, you know, Rich is my friend, and there's no angst, there's no hatred, there's no anything to motivate me except for, you know, hey, you could win the title, but it's going to be a wrestling match, and wrestling is hard. Brawls are a lot easier. So I'm just trying to get my wind up, and like I said, D'Lo, and you know this, I don't want to embarrass myself. I remember having the conversation with you. I watch you and I see you walking down steps, and I hate it because of your knees. And then I've seen you in the ring and I'm like, you're doing a moonsault, but yet you walk down the flight of stairs like you're 80, but yet I've seen you in the ring and still pull out a moonsault. And this isn't too long ago. And because you have pride, I have pride. We all joke about the weight we've gained, but that's called getting old. And we always want people to remember us in our glory. And I don't want to embarrass myself where I'm sucking wind and the match would suck. And that's why like all these things are going through my head, and just really training hard to, you know, keep up.
You know, without a doubt, we all have a lot of pride. I know you have a lot of pride in your history and your lineage and what you've meant to this business. So my question now is, at almost 50 years old and on your 50th birthday, what would it mean to Tommy Dreamer to become Impact World Champion?
It would mean everything. And I was never a guy who fought or wanted titles, but it's something. Listen, man, we've been in a world where all of our lives changed like within weeks. There's no more fans for us, and it's trying to adapt. But to me, it's hope. It's hope that things can change no matter how old you are. I always say, you know, life is a lot like professional wrestling. You're going to get knocked down a lot, but you got to keep on getting up and keep on fighting. And there are people who, you know, they use wrestling like I do as a glimmer of hope, or a glimmer of take us away from the crap that's going on in the world. And being champion makes you, I'm just a challenger, and this is the first time I'm ever doing this. Hell, I'm not even on the open of Impact Wrestling. There's things that come along with being the face of a company, and it's something that I take with pride. This business is as real as it gets, and especially as when you're the champion, because every time you step out of your house, you represent a company, you represent the men and women that are working there. And Impact, and I'm not just talking the wrestlers, I'm talking the employees, I'm talking, you know, Impact has a UK office. If you're a champion, does something, you represent everybody, and you want your company to succeed. And it's an honor to be in this spot and to be the champion of any company. There's a lot of pressure that falls on those shoulders. I'm willing to do it, as long as I feel great, because again, the hardest part of getting old, when I'm out there, I feel nothing. And then adrenaline leaves and I'm like, I'm every bit 50 years old and wrestling 31 years. And then the next morning, I'm like, there's some days, and I mean, D'Lo knows, we'll leave Impact shoot, and then we go back and we have to rewrite TVs because of injuries or because of changes. And we're up until 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And then we're literally back out the door. We have an 11 o'clock meeting. And there's some days where like I'll leave that building and I'll lay on my bed exhausted, like just to take off my socks and shoes. And then my alarm goes off, and it feels like I was there for 4 seconds. And I'm like, I got to shower and get ready for work again. And those are the behind the scenes that people don't see. And you know, even for you, D'Lo will be there all day, and then the next day he's got to either voice over matches or where him and Matt Striker are standing behind the Impact thing, the banner, and there's so much work to go on to promote or to produce a 2-hour TV show, and it's exhausting, but we're all artists painting our own little pictures, and I love that. And I've been doing it since I'm 18 years old, and I don't ever want to stop.
All righty, Tommy. Well, I think everybody looks forward to what you decide for No Surrender, February 13th. But as everybody knows, we do have some great matches already confirmed for No Surrender. Tag titles on the line: Good Brothers, Private Party, TJP against Rohit Raju. Tag match with Hernandez and Brian Myers teaming against Eddie Edwards and Matt Cardona. Of course, you got the Triple Threat Revolver. You got Davari, Suicide, Willie Mack, Ace Austin, Trey Miguel, Chris Bay, Josh Alexander, and Blake Christian. So No Surrender will be a great one next Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Impact Plus. And with that, we are going to open it up for media questions. Media members, if you'd please virtually raise your hand. I can see some of you guys are already doing that. We're going to go to you one by one. We'll bring you in. Please make sure you unmute your line. And if it's a question for Tommy, great. If it's a question for D'Lo, that too is great. Just let us know what the question's for. So, Lauren, we'll leave it in your trusty hands to see who the first media member is.
I'm on it, Ross. We have Philip Connolly from Sports Matters first.
Yep. Hello.
What's
Hey,
up,
Philip,
Philip?
how are you doing?
I actually have a question for both of them because it's something that I always wondered about. Can I start with D'Lo? I've always wondered, is this something that you'd wanted to get into commentary? You know, like when you were kind of coming up in the business, was it something that you thought about?
It was always something, it was always in the back of your mind, and you practice different parts and aspects of staying in this business as long as you can. So there's only so long you can be in the ring, and unless you're a guy like Tommy Dreamer, who's, Methuselah was his best friend. He broke in at the same time. But when you're in there, you realize you can only be in there for so long. So you start looking at other avenues, and that's when agenting and commentary and stuff like that came up. So it's always something that I've had in the back of my mind. So yeah. Philip?
Sorry, Philip, did you have another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, who would be his influences in the commentary, growing up? Like, I know there's JR and stuff. Was there anyone else that you've kind of followed?
Well, if you don't like, guys like Gordon Soley or Jim Ross or hell, Jim Cornette or, guys like that, I mean, these are the guys who own the desks. These are the guys who have set the tone for what it is to be in the commentary position. So guys like that, I always admired. Storytellers, people who paint the picture for the audience when they're seeing it play out in front of them. That's what you want to aspire to do.
Okay, we have Alex Slows next.
Hello.
Go ahead, Alex.
Alex, how are you doing?
Good afternoon, D'Lo. Good afternoon, Tommy. Good afternoon, Ross. So my question is for D'Lo. So is there anyone in your in-ring career that you learned from the most from commentary when it comes to wrestling? And if so, who was it that gave you the best advice?
I would actually say when I did commentary for Sunday Night Heat many moons ago, Paul Lee came up to me and gave me some really great advice that I still use to this day. He said, when you're on the mic and you're talking to the people, be authentic, don't talk down to them, and be truthful and speak what you see. And that has stuck with me. So he gave me that advice, and he's done a good job of being behind the mic too. So I took that advice very to heart. Wow, got awful quiet.
The Zoom lag.
Vanessa. Vanessa, from Putting You Over.
Yes, hello?
Hello.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hello, how are we doing today? Just a quick setup here for Mr. Dreamer. Both of you, I grew up watching both of you, so this is a crazy honor to speak with you. For Dreamer, if you do accept this challenge, do you think it is a gift that Swan is having you do that, or is he just offering it as kind of a not taking you as seriously maybe as someone else who may be more challenging for the belt?
No, it is definitely a gift. Stars aligned. There's a lot, but like I said, he's beaten everybody. He's beaten everybody that Impact Wrestling has asked him to wrestle. And yeah, as champion, you do get some special consideration. And he went to Scott D'Amore and said, "Hey, man, it's Dreamer's 50th birthday. I did everything you asked. Can I basically wrestle somebody that I've wanted to wrestle?" Because I've known Rich from independent wrestling. The first time I met him was at a company called CZW, and I was blown away with the stuff that he could do. And I always tried helping him when I saw him on the indies. And I mean, he also grew up watching me. He's a kid from Baltimore and grew up watching me. And this is the only sport where you can do stuff like that. You know, we got the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, and I always say Joe Montana can't throw a pass to a today's wide receiver, or Patrick Mahomes can't throw a pass to Jerry Rice, because it's different generations. But in wrestling, we have the ability to still do that. And there's, it's something that he wanted to do. And I don't think, Rich would ever take me lightly, especially if I ever land on him. He will never feel that anything that I do is light.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
you.
Vanessa. Appreciate your call. Media members, feel free. We'd like you to turn on your video so you have that as well, and we can see who everybody is. Raise your hand virtually if you have a question, and we're going to get to as many questions as we can in the limited time we have. So, D'Lo, are we?
Thanks, Ross. So it looks like I have a call from James from Wrestling Epic Center. You're up next, James. How are you doing? And welcome into the press pass.
James, please.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
there you go,
James. What's up?
Hey, it's a pleasure to talk to you guys, both of you. Well, three of you, in fact. My question is for Tommy Dreamer. First of all, I've been a fan of yours for years. I grew up watching on public access on Savoldi's show, and here we are on
Wow.
Access TV.
Wow.
So it's a transition of 30 years, I guess. My question for you is, a lot of guys that I have the pleasure of interviewing that came from ECW always compare where they work now to the glory days of ECW. And I think that there are parallels and major differences between ECW in its glory days and Impact Wrestling today. Would you say that's fair? And what would some of those similarities and differences be?
It's a great question, and very, very similar to the fact that, number one, the locker room. When I tell you, it's probably the coolest locker room I've ever been a part of. And for ECW, it was competitive, but it was competitive because we're all trying to make it. And it was a team effort, because it was like the show was first. In Impact Wrestling, we all have a chip on our shoulder, and yeah, we're trying to compete the entire time. I mean, think of how many times people have written off this company, and it's been around forever. But the back is awesome, and then the in rings are amazing. And then the beauty of what I got to experience and why I am the way I am. I literally was in my 20s. A lot of people don't realize when ECW went out of business, I was 29 years old. But in my 20s, again, 26 years old, I would come to the back and I would have Terry Funk, Paul Heyman and Mick Foley all trying to help me be better. And Kevin Sullivan, another guy, all these veterans trying to help me and with knowledge and learn from your mistakes. And now like the wrestlers in the back in Impact, they could come through the curtain and they have Tommy Dreamer, Don Callis, D'Lo Brown, Scott D'Amore, Rhino. You know, they have so many people to help make them better. And it's just like, it's great. And we all work so hard. And it's, again, like I talk about, it's these times we're no longer wrestling in front of fans. And when you see people in the back watching the show and all sitting around the monitor watching the back and reacting to it, that's your audience. And it's amazing to see. It truly is, because you have probably over 1,000 years of experience with everybody combined, and wrestlers are still popping at moves or popping at stuff, which is because we're the biggest fans of them all. So I love that stuff. I really do.
And James, thank you for your question. And real quickly, Tommy, I got to tell you that I've been in a lot of locker rooms. I have never walked to the back and seen an entire locker room surrounded by a monitor, cheering on someone in the ring, and when they come back, clap them back for doing a great job and putting over the company, putting over themselves. So we have very unique locker room, and I love the camaraderie here.
Yeah, and that's different. And I mean, trust me, and we've been in some bad locker rooms where there was people where you're at work and you're afraid to walk. You're walking on eggshells is the term, or you're afraid if you have a bad match, you're going to lose your job. And that's not a way to go through your life. And, you know, with Impact Wrestling too, I'm trying to really think about, like, pretty much if you continue, like you have a contract, they pretty much meet you to that contract unless something happens. But it's very, there was 3 people who were fired from ECW, and it's very, very hard not to get your contract fulfilled and at least know, hey, I'm going to be here for a year or 2 years, and then I can decide what I want to do. If you want to stay, cool, make it your home. If not, go somewhere else. And everybody's happy for those decisions as well.
True. Okay, so up next we have someone who I've talked to before. We have Stephanie from Steel Chair. Stephanie, how you doing?
You hear me?
We hear
I hear you now, Stephanie.
I try to open the why they didn't want to show me.
It's okay. We're live. We see your name.
Yeah, but it would be better to put on the
It's all right, Steph, don't worry about it. What's your question?
First of all, thank you guys for welcoming us tonight for this media call. Turning 50 is quite a milestone in a way. Did you set for yourself some limits, whether it's an age or your health, whatever, a limit in your mind when you think, okay, that would be the moment for me to stop? And also for you, D'Lo, did you have this same mindset when you decided to stop?
For me, no. Again, starting at this when I was 18, I didn't think I'd be wrestling till I was 50, because 50 sounded like such an old number. But I'm just going to keep on going until I can't go anymore. And I mean, hell, I got to have at least 2 to 3 fake retirements like Terry Funk and Ric Flair. So I'm just going to keep going until I don't want to go anymore. It's you know, that's my feeling. I've yet to have a surgery either. So I'm trying to, like, you know, until I totally fall apart and need a surgery, then I'm just going to get everything fixed.
For me, it was, I only wanted to go until I felt my skills diminished. And we're very prideful. And Tommy will tell you, we take pride in when we go to the ring, how we look in the ring, how we act in the ring, how we move around the ring. And when I felt that slipping, from what I wanted, I decided it was time to start scaling back and looking for a different avenue. I never set an age or a time limit. It just when my body told me it was time. Luckily Tommy's still going at almost 50. I wish I could still be out there going out there, but hey, you never know. I might have one run left in me. But Stephanie, thank you for your question. And next we'll bring in Michael Morales Torres. Michael, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hey Dilo, hey Ross, hey Tommy, hope everyone is doing well. Yes, it is correct. We cannot turn on our cameras here, but thank you for the opportunity. I have a question for each one of you. The first one is for Tommy Dreamer. Tommy, you wrestled in Puerto Rico for IWA at one point. What does wrestling in Puerto Rico help you to develop in your career? And to Dilo, what's the most complicated part of doing a transition from being, an active pro wrestler to being a commentator?
For me, man, I miss Puerto Rico, and the biggest part of what I miss is the fans. And it's a different style, but I mean, I grew up watching Carlos Colon on the Spanish channel here in New York. And for me to go there, I mean, the first time I went there was with IWA and, with Savio Vega, and the reactions the people give you when the horn, I love that horn whenever you're wrestling, or when you start blowing your comeback and you're throwing the punch and the people are like, shwa, shwa, shwa. I live for that stuff because we work for reactions, but it's how wrestling fans in Puerto Rico, and I fit in there great with my crazy, style, but they're just so passionate. And I think even when I went there with WWE, I think they're so passionate because they didn't receive it as much outside of, Carlos's company. And when IWA was running, D'Lo worked there too. It's so different, but it's a great different.
It's an amazing territory, and I love my time down there, and it was so fun. And it taught you, like, if you were a heel, you ran for your life because they took it for real down there, and they would throw rocks and try to cut you. And to go back and answer your question, Michael, about what's the hardest thing about the transition from wrestling to commentating. Full disclosure, I'll break down the fourth wall. We have our headsets on, so it was hard for me to get used to looking at the action on the monitor, calling the action, and having someone else's voice in my head telling me what I should be saying, or what I could be saying, or what I messed up on, or what's my next to break. So that was a hard thing to get used to, is having that quote unquote voice of God in your head. So now, thank you for your question, Michael. Up next is Konstantinos. I think we have you on the line. Welcome.
Hi, D'Lo. Hi, Tommy, and a happy birthday in advance.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, Tommy, I would like your take on Undertaker's recent comments on the Joe Rogan show, where he claimed that the product has become a little too soft. More specifically, he said, the product has changed so much, it's kind of soft. I'll probably piss a lot of people off, but they need to hear it. It is what it is. I just think the product is a little soft. There's obviously guys here and there that have an edge to them, but there's too much pretty and not enough substance, I think, right now. Now, since you are one of the most hardcore wrestlers of all time who competed through the most extreme periods of pro wrestling, what do you make of that statement? Do you believe that the product has become a little too soft?
Well, I didn't hear the Joe Rogan podcast, and you telling me that, and I have to tell you this, that Vince McMahon received $1 billion for his product on one day. So whatever he's doing better than everybody on this call. So I can't knock somebody who gets $1 billion for their stuff. I've worked with Vince McMahon. I personally have no issues with Vince McMahon. There's times I watch WWE and I'm like, ugh. But guess what? There's times I watch AEW. There's times I watch Impact and I'm like, ugh. because we're all different. Me and D'Lo could watch the same match, and D'Lo could be like, "That was great," and I could be like, "That sucked." It's different opinions. That's something to ask the Undertaker when he does his media pass. I don't think he'll do it here, but to say it soft, listen, I watch wrestling every day. I watch way too much wrestling. I'm watching wrestling from the 1970s. It's on Amazon Prime called IWA. And I'm watching these guys who were main eventers. And I'm saying to myself, a lot of these guys couldn't get jobs today. It's different, and it's different generational, and it's different from the years. It's different, and it's okay. Every sport changes. There's baseball players like Pete Rose or Johnny Bench. When you used to be able to slide head first, used to be able to knock out a catcher. You do that, you're out. It's different generations of how you play the game. Football players, literally guys, their job was to injure other players. They would hit guys in their head purposely. That is now not part of the game. The game progresses because life progresses.
That's very well put, Tommy, and thank you for bringing that sports analogy in, because sports is an example of how in the 1950s they played one way, and in 2021 they play a different way. People go, well, that's the game's soft. The game just evolves, and so has wrestling.
Yep.
So our next question here is from a person I know very well. I've been around him for a long time. Jim Barcelona, I know you're from the Miami Herald. Jim, how you doing? Welcome.
Hey, Jim, if I can chime in before you get going. Media, we do have it set up so you could put your cameras on now, and we should be able to see everybody. Should be good to go on that.
All right, just doing that, Dr. Ross. Let me see. Well, I can only do the audio, so that's about it. Hey, I will say this. I'm wearing my University of Miami hat today, so I just want you, Tommy, and D'Lo to know that as we go. So my question is for D'Lo first, what are your thoughts of commentating with Matt? Did you guys do anything to prepare for that? Or were you guys got together and just went at it right away when it started?
A combination of both. We watched a lot of football together and just got a feel of how their play-by-play was, because we wanted to do something a little different than the typical wrestling, play-by-play. We wanted to do more of a ESPN analyst. Hey, there you are, Jim. We wanted to do more of an ESPN style analyst, former player breakdown. So that's kind of where we got our inspiration for what we're doing now behind the desk, and I hope people like it.
And for Tommy, I'm just curious too, because it's so important. The referee's job, the commentating is so important when you're putting on a show. Just for you as a performer in the ring, a wrestler, give us some insight at just when you're going out there and you have a good commentating team there to call your match, and how that makes you feel and helps you at all.
I have watched myself wrestle, and when they're talking about another match or they're talking about a pay-per-view during your match, the entire match, it's very, very disrespectful for the performers. To know that there's wrestling fans and people who have wrestled have appreciation for what we do, it means everything. It really does. And there's a big process that goes on it. There's a screener too that when you do tape shows, the people will give notes, and when I tell you, it's pages and emails of notes where then if something isn't said, or if something is said, or if something has offended somebody, we live in a whole different world. And then, D'Lo and Stryker would have to go back into the studio and recall a match that they already called. I listen, my first ever time doing commentary was ECW Barely Legal. And like D'Lo said, it was them saying stuff in my ear. I literally told the producer to shut up because I was concentrating on the match. But it means the world when you have people who are watching and enjoying what you're doing. And like I said, in the back, when you have people, wrestlers reacting, I'm wrestling 31 years. I think D'Lo's close to, 30 as well. That's 60 years of experience. And when we pop for stuff, or if we think someone got hurt or landed on their head, or we're like, that's shows like that we still have passion for what we do. And I love that.
Well, thank you both. Always enjoy both of you doing your thing. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Appreciate you, Jim, very much. Good insight, Tom, because at the end of the day, we're both still fans, and that's what allows us to make these calls and put that passion in, and we enjoy what we're seeing. And I like you, I love wrestling. I'm going to get off this call and I'm going to watch wrestling, and then later on today, I'm going to call wrestling. So I enjoy wrestling. So up next, we have Innes McVeigh from Inside the Ropes. Innes, what is your question for Tommy or myself?
Hi guys, can you hear me?
There you go. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
Oh, look at that little puppy back there.
No, she set herself up perfectly to be in the background. I've got a question for both of you individually, if that's all right.
Yes.
Tommy, for you first, as someone who's been a bit of a major player in ECW, whilst, you had WWF, WCW and ECW all competing with each other, what's your perspective on AEW's relationship with Impact and other promotions? And is there any similarities to how ECW's occasionally partnered with WWF back in the day?
There's a lot of the behind the scenes and I've explained this, I host a show called Busted Open here in the States, and D'Lo's an agent. I am an agent. We're part of production. We wear many hats, and there are times where literally it'll say the main event and there's nothing there. We're not, like when Tony Khan showed up a couple of weeks ago, first Jerry Lynn walked in, and I know Jerry Lynn lived in Tennessee, and I was like, hey man, what's going on? And he's like, I came by to say hello. And then all of a sudden, Tony Khan came in like 2 hours later. And then I see them, they're on television. And I'm like, I have no clue what's going on. If it's not my segment, I really don't care about it. And I want to just watch it on television. Back in the day with ECW, we were told by Paul Heyman, this is the agreement. They're trying to do stuff to go after WCW to try to get those ratings back. And we're trying to promote our first ever pay-per-view. And that was the gist of the relationship. None of us knew that Paul Heyman was getting a paycheck from WWE. None of us knew any of that. When me and Sandman first showed up at In Your House, we legit had snipers, professional wrestlers, the Eliminators, Taz, the Pitbulls in the audience, because if a real fight was going to go down, you would have seen a riot, because we were ready. Even, well, and I said it on another thing, when Jerry Briscoe came down and Jerry Briscoe's trying to stop us, he was ready to fight. And he's like, come on, you mother effers. And I'm looking at his eyes and I'm like, this is on. Bradshaw didn't know it was going to happen. The only person who knew was Savio. So there's these secrets in wrestling that only a few are privy to. I think it's a great relationship because you're getting to see dream matches where Kenny Omega is the AEW world champion. He shows up on Impact. It was a great tag match. And then, hey, we got a bit of a reunion on AEW. Last night on AEW, you had wrestlers from AEW, Impact Wrestling, and New Japan Pro Wrestling on the same show. How awesome is that? The possibilities are endless for booking, for matchups, anywhere you want to go. And that's great for who? The wrestling fans and the business.
For you, D'Lo, leading up to your debut on commentary, were you nervous about taking up the new role? And did you look to the likes of Taz or Samoa Joe for inspiration, or even ask either of them for any advice?
You're always nervous. If you say you're not nervous, then it's time to retire and get out of this business. And you don't want to go out there and get the mic and just mess up. I mean, this is live TV, and there's a lot of people out there listening to you and judging you for being the new guy on the block. So you really want to go give your A game. I talked to some people who I feel confident in with their advice, and just I leaned on them for their guidance, and leaned on them for some inspiration on how to do things. So yeah, I'm not going to go into all the people I leaned on, because if I say one, I'll forget three other. But yeah, if you're not nervous when you go out there to do anything when the camera's on, then it's time to quit being in this business.
That's great. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
goodness for your questions, and they were great. Coming up next, we have Sydney Puller. Sydney, how are you doing? Welcome in, and hope you're having a great day.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's up?
Hey, Sydney, what's going on?
I'm doing well. I have a question for both of you. Honored and privileged to be talking to the both of you. First, for D'Lo, this transition to the commentary desk is really like your second big transition for you in Impact, going from wrestler to producer and now to commentator. Can you tell us the difference in the things that you're looking for in talent or matches to help enhance them as a commentator to when you were a producer?
Literally, you're looking for the same stuff. I want to find things that are going to excite the audience at home. When the wrestlers put on their match, I want to be able to paint the picture and tell the story they're trying to convey. And that's literally the same thing you do as an agent. It's just now it's audible, and I get to explain it to the world now as opposed to just to the talent in the back. So it's a little bit of a transition, but it's a lot of the same job.
Thank you for that. Tommy, I'm a huge fan. I'm actually from New York myself, so thank you for repping us for all these years, man. You made the parallel to yourself in 1997 and Rich now, but you've also been like the only person on TV that's gone to Scott D'Amore and kind of to address your concerns with the whole AEW involvement on Impact Wrestling. How do you see yourself as Impact World Champion kind of dictating how this crossover or relationship is going to go?
Well, if I do accept, I could clearly beat Rich Swann, and then I'm going to go. That's Saturday. So then Wednesday, I'll go and fight Kenny Omega. I'll beat him, and then I'll take both titles, throw them in the trash on SmackDown, and create wrestling history and all the good will I did to everyone. I'll just crap all over it in like 1 week and just be like, I'm out and retire.
That sounds like a great plan.
Hey, I'll just combine every crazy angle that's ever happened into one thing. Listen, if you're, and I got to tell you, and I'm not trying to mislead anybody ever. The Royal Rumble, one of the main events was Adam Pearce versus Roman Reigns. And that was the week before the Royal Rumble. And then they changed it. It's part of when you're doing compelling television, or you want people to stay tuned. Like I said, you have to tune in on Tuesday to see what I say. That's going to happen for Saturday. And I want it in my heart. I want it. But then again, I realize that I am 50. If I am able to defeat Rich, I would do whatever to represent Impact Wrestling. I'm very, very loyal to the business, and I don't forget people who helped me along the way. And if I had to go to AEW and beat the crap out of Don Callis, I'll love to do it because I want to do it when he's just an Impact. But to go out on a bigger platform with the Impact title and show, I say this just like when people talked about ECW. Man, WWE was on USA Network, WCW was on TNT, but you were like in the cool mix if you knew about ECW. And people were always like, yeah, man, this is cool, but you got to see what these guys in Philly are doing. And I feel that same way with Impact. It's like we're wrestling's best kept secret. everybody has storylines, everybody has creative. If you're not, most of the people are on television every single week, even if it's an appearance, a backstage interview, it's something. I love that, but to rep a brand or any brand, it's a great responsibility. And like I said, I would, if that happens, and then if I win it, whoa, it's a game changer. I'm not I'm not a social justice warrior. I see a lot of people straight up hating the fact that I'm in a world title shot for the fact that I'm 50 years old. And they're like, there's so much youth and all that stuff. I was like, okay, number one, do you not like me because I'm going to be 50 on my birthday? Like, I'm sorry, I'm 50 and I'm still wrestling, but there should never be that about anything. And I've even said, like, yeah, it's a gift and it's something that Rich wanted to do. So how do you begrudge someone? And I say this from David Arquette. Someone said, hey, you're a big fan. Do you want to wrestle for the world title? And that was met with like such hatred in this dark day of professional wrestling. But yet here's a guy, if someone said to me or D'Lo, hey, there's a football game on Sunday, it's called the Super Bowl, would you like to play one down? I don't know anybody that wouldn't say, yeah. And that's kind of like how I'm at, I have just some other more concerns, but just I want everyone to think about that. And one day when you're my age, you'll understand it even more.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man. And is that a John Wayne picture behind you?
Yes, it is. My dad drew it himself.
Your dad is very talented. That's badass.
Thank you.
Tommy, I have a question, and I have actually two questions. So why is it in wrestling when you're 50 or old, but when you look at a Tom Brady, people are revered by what he's doing at his advanced age? It's like, I think people should marvel that you can still be out there competing at a high level and not falling off the cliff. When you go to Japan, guys like Babo are wrestling almost into his 70s. So, I mean, I wonder why it is in wrestling we look down on age as opposed to prop it up.
I think it's a sign of the times. I literally have tweeted, it's a beautiful sunset here in Lake Michigan one day. And I saw a captivating sunset and I got, wow, great picture. Wow, wow, wow. And then on that same tweet, there was one person, Lake Michigan is eroding Ohio. Then another person, do you know what Lake Michigan is doing? The pollution? And I'm just like, hey man, all I was doing was trying to put out a nice picture. You were going to have anything you say be met with criticism because that's the world we live in with social media. You look at Edge, who's 2 years younger than I. What a great story for him to win the Royal Rumble. And then the moment he won it, you have all these people being like, he shouldn't have won it. He's too old. And I'm like, wait, you loved it before he won it. Or my favorite is everyone was rejoicing Victoria was in it. Victoria's older than me. She's going to be 50 in like 3 days. And I was like, oh, because she's prettier than me. Oh, that's messed up.
Well, that's true there, Tommy. Let's not. Yeah, Victoria's better looking than you. All right. So we thank Sydney for joining us. Now we go to James from the 90s Wrestling Podcast. Sounds like a podcast I'd like to listen to. James, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There
Thanks
you
very
go.
much, mate. Hiya. Quick question for both of you, really.
What a great background. That's awesome.
Cheers. I've only literally just figured out how to put a background on Zoom. So even though I like to think I'm fairly young, I am a waste of time when it comes to technology, but I try my best. But yeah, wrestling question for you.
I can't figure out how to do the background.
But yeah, a wrestling question for Tommy and a non-wrestling question for D'Lo. Please, D'Lo, I'll ask you first. I know you're a fellow Red, and Liverpool's gone through a little bit of a rough time, but last season, how did you feel when we finally ended 30 years of it?
To watch Liverpool hoist the Premier League trophy last year was amazing. To be part of the run they have been on for the last 5 years with, Champions League finals and winning Champions Leagues and being the champions of the world with the Super Cup. And it's been a great run. Okay, we've had some injuries this year. Van Dijk going down did not help us at all.
No.
So our back line is really soft this year. But you know what? Here's the great thing about it is we got next year. I've got all this year to rejoice being called Premier League champions. And what more could you ask for?
Awesome.
I mean, we could be Everton.
Exactly. Cool. The question for you, Tommy, and actually, I don't know if you remember, I put out the tweet the other week. I put a poll out who's the face of ECW, and you was voted the official face of ECW. But my question for you, so obviously with COVID, it's put a stop on hiring and like people from abroad and like different countries. And I've noticed lately there's been a groundswell of like Canadian talent, and it's being pushed by Impact Zone, Josh Alexander, and a good friend of mine, someone who you've wrestled, Jeremy Prophet. Once everything calms down with COVID and travel restrictions are taken off, is as someone who is the locker room leader, is the Canadian independent scene somewhere that Impact would like to look at towards getting future talent?
I think for every wrestling company, it's like you said, the world has closed down, and and I mean, even here in the States, we have new government where, there are some travel restrictions. I think the world is wide open once we get out of this. And kudos, you talk about Impact Wrestling, and I've said this a lot. The world shut down. Literally, the world shut down, but professional wrestling kept going. Impact Wrestling, historically, they're the only company to show still new live footage, because we had tape stuff while everybody else was showing recap stuff, which helped Impact Wrestling. And then they were also, which was more importantly, they were the first company to hire people during COVID. And hats off to them, because they really, really stepped up. And who benefits? Again, the wrestling company, the fans. They really do. You get to see all these other people. And then the wrestlers, now they don't have to worry about, oh, I just lost my job in a time of COVID. What the hell am I going to do? The borders, once they open up, I was just reading about Japan. Like, if you go to Japan, you have to land and you go to a center, get checked, and then you have to go into a hotel for 14 days and you can't come out.
Yeah. And
so if you want to go wrestle in Japan, you're literally going to sit there for 15 days before you know whether or not you can go wrestle. That's a lot,
Yeah.
And the wrestling business has learned on the fly. You look at WWE with the Thunderdome. You look at AEW. They went with wrestling fans because the state allowed it. With us now, we have crowd noise in there because everyone's trying to find their own niche. The best part about Impact Wrestling was very, very up to par with COVID testing and all that stuff, just because, they care about their performers. And that's how I feel the world should all be. We should all just try to take care of each other. I want the world. I miss the UK. I miss traveling. I went from wrestling over 200 shows a year to I wrestle 3 days a month tops.
Yeah.
Or just go to work. And, I miss it. I never thought I'd say I miss flying, because that's the only time I've been in pain, and I miss it. I miss the fans. I really do.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for having me, and happy birthday, and good luck for Saturday. That's if you accept Swan's challenge.
You got it.
Thank you, James. Yeah, I think Impact did a really good job of stepping up during COVID in terms of production and producing new content, and as you said, hiring individuals. So I think Impact has done a really good job in this unusual time in the world's history.
Yeah, man. It's and everybody, NBA, they went straight to the playoffs. Football, think of how many games have been canceled. It's been crazy how management has to think on the fly, or like I said, it's a lot of rewrites, and card subject to change has never been so much in the world of COVID. You look at Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre are supposed to do something, and oh my God, we got to break Triple H out because we lost our champion due to COVID with Drew McIntyre. Here comes Triple H, and kudos to everybody who has stepped up across the board, as well as being honest with the audience. That is unheard of in professional wrestling, but these are the good part of the times where, hey, you know, back in the day, it would be he slipped in the shower or he got a flat tire, he missed TV and he can't be there. But honesty is the best policy. Always will be.
All right. Well, if I could chime in here, media, I see a lot of you guys are still have your hands up. We're going to get to as many as we can in the remaining time we have. I'm going to go to
Ross. Listen, I got nothing to do. I'll stay on if D'Lo needs to go somewhere. I got nothing to do, man. We're in COVID. I got nothing.
All right. We'll get as much as we can.
I'll answer every question. Facebook's on fire. I guess. I don't know. I've never done this.
All right. Well,
am I getting likes?
Of course you are.
It?
A lot of them.
All right.
So, D'Lo, this is a Facebook question from John Michael for you. 10 seconds to answer. That's all you got. He says, right here, if Tommy wins the world championship, are you going to challenge him for the world championship?
Damn right I will. I'll stand at the announce desk and go, Tommy Dreamer, I challenge you right now for an Impact World title.
Hey, listen, to answer your question, I did a Sky High recently, and I walked by and goes, listen, you do Sky High again, I'm putting on the trunks. I'm going to show you how it's really done.
Yeah, you're damn right. Oh goodness. Okay. With that being said, let's take our next media representative, Joel Torres. Joel Torres, come on in and ask your question of Tommy or myself. And yes, I will challenge Tommy if he wins the Impact World title. I'll be the first in line. No, I didn't say in the ring. It might be at the buffet.
Sorry, guys. I think Joel's put his hand down. I'm going to go to Bill Pritchard next.
Bill Pritchard. Well, Joel, you're out of there. Bill, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Why? There we go. Hey.
Bill as well.
Can you guys hear me?
Hey, what's up?
There
man?
we go.
Oh, hey, how you doing? I have questions for both of you. One of them, I'll say the first one is for Tommy. You talked about being the guy that never won the title, whether it was, you know, you personally had feelings about it or fans kind of got behind you. What changed in that respect to, you know, having a chance to win the Impact title? Why does that appeal to you now? And I guess I'll save my second question after you answer this one.
During ECW, it was, I feel a title was, I didn't need it. And when I won it, I had immediately lost it, but I feel a title has helped to make guys, and I was already made and I didn't need it. I also didn't want people saying my relationship with Paul Heyman is why I was the champion, because I don't know if you know this, but there's been a lot of, I don't know if nepotism is the proper word, but favoritism. If you go back, and a lot of the bookers were the champions in professional wrestling. And I didn't want people to say that about me. In WWE, it was, my contract was up for real. I had every year the new WWE ECW guy, every match that I was in was the highest rated main events. And I literally went to Vince McMahon. I said, hey, man, you're supposed to be this great businessman. Here's proof why you're not. And I said, my contract's coming up. This is what I want to do. If you don't want to sign me, cool. Then I'll lose. But I'll put my career up, blah, 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 blah. It worked out. And to me, it was, you know, that night, I remember walking out there and seeing as many Tommy Dreamer signs as there were for John Cena. And it was like my personal vindication that I knew what I was doing and it was right. And then now, like I said, there's a whole lot of things going through my head, but it just means a lot, I think, because of the times, because of the world that we're currently living in. And I just want to go out there and have a good match, as well as to give people hope, because we all need hope nowadays and just be like, hey, if old man Dreamer could do something, I think I could do something. Listen, man, there's an amazing DVD. I'm sorry, not DVD. DDP has this amazing movie on Amazon Prime. And it's just talking about people's weight loss. And I'm somebody who has dealt with my weight my whole life. And literally it started with like, there's people who do like one sit-up and then the next day they could do two. And then they just keep on. I've been on TV since I'm 21 years old and have never been off of it. And at 50 years old could be like, hey, if this guy could do something or can still live his dream, why can't I? We're all home doing nothing. How come people aren't writing better movies? Because Netflix hasn't been the best lately. Or how come you can't write a book? Or how come you can't do something that you have always wanted to do? Because at times, all we have is time. And nothing is guaranteed for tomorrow. It really isn't.
All right. And then the other question.
And go Yankees and Mets.
Hey. I still got the red one.
I know. We talked about it.
I got the red one. For both of you, this is kind of following up on the Trey's mom story that you told on your podcast.
Yep.
I have D'Lo here, so you explained why you
I don't think D'Lo knows the story, but
doesn't
okay.
he? D'Lo, you are a dad to Trey Miguel now.
Yeah, I was bringing that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there any other angles or stories that, I mean, you don't have to give them away if you don't want to, but like, are there any angles like that you couldn't do for one reason or another? It wasn't the right time, wasn't, the climate's different, anything like that you kind of kicked around and just couldn't do?
For me, there was two that I think two would have been great. I was supposed to have a 2 to 3 program with Triple H and main event with him for the title. Never happened. Behind the scenes BS. That would have been great for my career. Plus, to be honest, Triple H is one of my last ever dream matches because I think and still do think he's one of the best heels of all time. And I was a pretty good babyface. But I always thought of like babyface Tommy Dreamer from ECW versus, heel Triple H. Or then when I was there and we were doing the ECW stuff, or even when I had my own company, House of Hardcore, and he had NXT and he kept on, signing talents that I was using. I always thought there was something to that. So for me, plus the financial gains of those matches would have been phenomenal. But hey, it didn't happen. And they brought Shawn Michaels back with that horrible haircut and those horrible brown tights to replace me. And in Impact Wrestling, as you know, I had a great relationship with Tessa Blanchard, and I was kind of her mentor. And I wanted to do, and this is for old wrestling fans, Mr. Wrestling #2 versus Magnum TA. And I wanted to actually turn heel on her and beat her for the title and then transition it to somebody else. But I wanted to turn on her and just be total heel. And it didn't happen. But I think it would have been pretty damn good if it did, because you would have had people hating on me. And, my biggest heat was you turned on a woman who, trusted you. And I thought it would have been pretty damn good, but didn't happen.
Well, for me, luckily, there's not been many storylines that were laid out that didn't happen. Only one I can really think of was WrestleMania in Philadelphia, where I teamed up with Test to take on Owen and Jeff Jarrett for the tag titles. That was supposed to be Mark Henry and I, but Mark hurt his knee about 3 weeks earlier and required surgery. And we were supposed to win the tag titles at Mania. So that's probably the biggest one regret I ever had was going from winning the tag titles at Mania to being in a tag team with Test and just getting beat.
And having to deal with Test.
And having to deal with Test. So yeah, that's probably the only storyline that I was ever in that got scrapped.
All right. Thanks for your time, guys.
I appreciate it, Bill. The wrestling sport. Isaac, how are you doing, my friend? Welcome in, and hope you have a question for Tommy or myself.
Elo, who did the job in your match?
Okay, give me a moment. Can you hear me?
I did. Yes, we got you.
What's up?
Okay. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks for the opportunity. So, I am good. So, my question is, what can we expect from Tommy Dreamer in No Surrender?
You can expect, if I agree to the match, I'm going to give it my all. And I won't hold back because I know Rich Swann won't. But I'm going to try to go out there and put on, hey, to be honest, I've never had an Impact World title shot. I had one with Bobby Roode in my own company. A lot of people don't get this opportunity. You don't get a lot of second shots. So I have to really capitalize on this the best way possible.
Thanks, Mr. Tommy.
No problem, man. Thank you for
you,
your
Isaac.
question.
Hey, Tommy, I'll ask a side question here because I know the answer, but those out there who have never been in the ring don't. What is it like to step across from the ring from a friend, realizing you're 10 seconds away from punching him in the face, and you're realizing you're going to go fight him to take his title away? If you agree to this, what is that? What does that feel like? And you and I, we've been there. But for those at home, just give them a little insight.
It's harder. You don't listen. I think everybody has wrestled with their friends in their backyard or in their living room. And then it's like, hey man, you just did that a lot harder, or hey, you're doing this, and tempers rise. And a lot of times fights can break out, or you have to be professional and not want to go at it the way that you want to go at it, because I have no problem hitting a man low. I have no problem punching somebody in their face, especially like a Moose, because I love punching Moose in his face.
He's got a punchable face.
But when it's somebody who you admire as well as have so much respect for, it's a lot different. Me and Christian, some of my favorite matches were against me and Christian, and we would literally ride to the building together, and it was babyface versus babyface. And then we would get out there. He would say something to me out there to get me going. And then if not, Jay has probably some of the hardest hands and straight up punch me in my face. I'm like, oh, okay. Or even Bubba. Me and Bubba from the Dudleys days, Bubba used to smack me across my face, and dude, it was on. And I've got a lot of scars on my head, and he's got a lot of scars on his head from each other. And it was totally different when you're friends with somebody. Friends sometimes hit each other the hardest, but when you're going up against somebody where, Rich is, like I said, pound for pound, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I can't do the things, even in my prime, couldn't do the things that Rich Swann could do. I literally watch him in awe. And I would have to take a different approach to all of it with Rich.
Well, thank you for entertaining me with that one, Tommy. I want to give everybody a little insight. Okay, coming up here, we have Aiden Bessick from Soundsphere Magazine. Aiden, welcome in. How are you doing today?
Hi all, I hope you're good. My question's for both of you. So I was just wondering, Impact has quite a youthful roster from both the male and the female kind of aspect of it. I was just thinking, who do both of you think is the future of the company?
I think match of the year for last year should have been Rich Swann versus Chris Bay. Chris Bay is going to be 25 years old on my birthday, which is his birthday too. I think Chris Bay will be a star in Impact Wrestling and a star like anywhere he is. I hope he's signed to a long-term deal. Another person where I look at the fire behind Trey Miguel and the fact that he re-signed with Impact Wrestling is a great addition, because every day he's at his wrestling school and he is early 20s. I think he's 25 and he has so many years experience. Jordan Grace, another person. The list goes on and on. Yes. Listen, you're talking to somebody who was in a locker room from a company that just started, and there was Jimmy Snuka, Kevin Sullivan, Terry Funk, Shane Douglas, but then there was all these newcomers named Taz, Sabu, Rob Van Dam, unheard of, Tommy Dreamer, and then they emerged to be the stars. And, you know, it's just, that's the nature of the business. It always will be. I remember watching a young D'Lo Brown, Mark Henry, and this guy called The Rock. They were all in a group put together. Everyone became an individual star, but the leader of that was Ron Simmons, who was the veteran. And that's how this business has always been about. And I love it. I love that aspect.
I think on the Impact roster, there are so many future stars, not just for Impact Wrestling, but for the world of wrestling, that are waiting to blossom. And you mentioned the Chris Bay, you mentioned a Trey Miguel. I'll go out there and say an Ace Austin. You know, Moose is still relatively young. There are guys and girls on our roster right now that are primed to be impactful professionals in this business for a long time, and Impact Wrestling is giving them that fertile breed to grow and become this new star. So to pick one, be hard. Take a dartboard and throw it at our roster, and you can find a new star. That's literally how I look at our roster. Is there are so many individuals who could just become that next great one.
Thanks, guys. And Tommy, good luck if you do accept the challenge.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Aiden. Let's take it over to Carlos from Indie Pro Wrestling. Carlos, how are you doing? And Tommy, I'm jealous you got that Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Damn you.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me today?
What's up, man?
Yes, how you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for the time. And my question is for both D'Lo Brown and with Tommy Dreamer. So with talent like Moose, Eddie Edwards, Sammy Callahan, Rosemary, continuously re-signing with Impact, what do you guys think about like Trey Miguel re-signing, sticking around? Because I know that sometimes it's more of like people come in here for a little bit and then they go elsewhere. I think Trey Miguel staying, showing that, you know, Impact can retain some top guys. I would like to see more people stick around with Impact to kind of like blossom and be a better performer overall. What do you guys can do to like help talent stay versus, you know, going elsewhere?
If you think about pre-COVID, there was a time, if there was anybody on the indie, if there was the indie darling, they'd get signed by WWE. They were scooping up all this talent, and there was a lot of talent getting paid literally not to go to work for AEW or Impact Wrestling. I think a lot of talent realized that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And I feel Impact Wrestling is a great place to start your career if you need to revitalize your career or continue to grow within your career. It's personal choice. Hey, you can leave Impact Wrestling. It also doesn't mean that you have the ability to come back right away, because they're going to be loyal to the talent that decided to stay. The phone, I'm sure I know how many emails I get. I'm sure D'Lo gets a lot of well-known names that want to come to work in Impact Wrestling because it's kind of the cool place to work. And it's like, hey man, you can only have so many matches. You can only have, so many spots on a roster. And that's okay. Because I also feel every, 3 to 5 years in the same company, you should go on to go somewhere else. And as long as you do proper business, usually the door is always open. But that's, again, the nature of the business. And then there's people who need that. If you look at any sport, it's okay to go to another team to see if you could do well. Look at Mookie Betts. He was a Red Sox, and then, I went to the Dodgers and I brought a World Series to Los Angeles finally. And I got paid a lot of money to do it.
That is true.
There's not much more. There's not much more I can add to what Tommy just said. Sometimes you have to change locker rooms, but I like it when people stay here. Like Trey Miguel staying here was a big get for us. And then I liked it when guys had the ability to go anywhere, like the Good Brothers, and choose us. Guys like Brian Myers and Matt Cardona choose us. That lets you know this is a good place to be. It's a great locker room to be in, and it's a place where people are going to get opportunities to go out there and show what they have the ability to be.
I don't mean to cut you off. One of the most profound statements I ever heard was from Eric Young, and he said WWE has 3, 5, 7 hours of television plus main event. You have about 9 hours of television a week. And when you can't find 6 to 7 minutes to have me on your show, you're doing your company and the fans a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, that says a lot. You mean to tell me you have nothing for Eric Young? And he came back and still is. He's a man possessed. And there's nothing wrong. It's from, what was the movie? A Bronx Tale. The biggest thing is wasted talent. Don't waste your talent. And I could go on and on for wrestlers that literally were stars someplace, and then they went on thinking it was going to be better, and then they were just like, nope, not happening. And then EC3, great example, has everything: the look, can wrestle, can talk, top guy in Impact. Went to WWE, nothing. Thankfully, he was able to come back for a little bit, and hopefully he can come back again.
Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with your match with Rick Swan. And D'Lo Brown, huge fan.
Appreciate you, Carlos. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
So I'd like to move on. We've got Thomas Lee coming in next. Thomas, how are you doing? And what is your question for Tommy Dreamer or myself?
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Thomas, how are you doing?
Oh, good. I want to thank you, D'Lo, and Tommy and Ross and Lauren for this. I appreciate it. Question for first for you, D'Lo. Like, how has it been, the experience being commentating for Impact Wrestling? How's that been different from wrestling professionally in the squared circle?
It's a different kind of emotional rush. It's a different kind of emotional high. Like going to the ring, you get that adrenaline rush because you're about to go out there and compete and be in the ring and pit your skills against someone else. And then compare the commentary. Now I've got to work that symbiotic relationship with Matt Stryker. So he and I are competing back and forth, but in a team type effort in order to paint the picture in the ring the best way we can. So both have this emotional high, but they're two different feelings. Thomas, you still there?
D'Lo, we're going to move on. You got the next.
Looks like we got Joel. Joel Torres is up. Joel, how are you doing? Joel, how's it going?
And here we are. How are you guys?
There you go.
Okay. Let me see here. Okay, here we are. How you guys doing? How are you? Good to meet you.
Excellent.
Guys, I just want to have your thoughts about what do you think about the professional wrestling business in the States, giving the opportunity for Latinos, to shine a little bit more, Puerto Ricans like myself, Mexicans and stuff. What do you think about what's going on nowadays in the business with them?
For me, I'm probably one of the biggest fans of, I don't know, their LAX, also the Lucha Bros. I would literally sit back and watch every match that Ray Phoenix or Penta would have, because they just would do so much stuff. I think Ray Phoenix is the next Rey Mysterio. I wish there's the world, especially in Impact, man, that guy would have been world heavyweight champion just for the stuff that he can do. I've always been a fan of anybody professional wrestling. I never look at, your heritage or your color of your skin. I look at how good you are in the ring. It's great to have your own heritage to represent. But I just look at talent. I didn't like when they would say Pedro Morales was the champion because of the large Hispanic popularity that he had. I would say Pedro Morales was the champion because he was one hell of a fiery up babyface during those times, and he could go and was a really good wrestler. But I love the boom of all international stars because, hey, man, like, we're a melting pot. We're a melting pot in professional wrestling, and the fact that you get to see all the different styles. You also have to understand where I came from. ECW, we were the first to bring in, the luchadors and introduce that style to professional wrestling. And then when they left, we brought in, Tajiri and Super Crazy. And we always were about the progression of the business. And this is just another progression of the business. It really, and it's great because who wins? The wrestling fans do.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tommy. I think it's nice when you have that melting pot, and I also agree that talent, when you have talent, everything else is colorblind. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, black, white, green, or purple. If you can go out there and wrestle in the ring, to me, that's all that matters, is your talent inside those ropes. But I love the flair when you bring people from different parts of the world in and they add a little flavor to your locker room. But other than that, I just think talent is blind, and it trumps everything.
Yep. The best part about the business now, I think the only prejudice that ever was where guys would say, oh, that was a good woman's match. Now it's just the women blow away a lot of the guys and it'd be like, oh, that was a great match. That I've never looked at D'Lo and be like, oh, he's a really good black wrestler. And I know D'Lo's never looked at me and said, oh, Tommy Dreamer's a really good white wrestler. It's just like, man, D'Lo's a good worker. The wrestling business has always been about that. It really has, amongst the wrestlers, really has.
Mm-hmm. All right, Joel, thank you for your question. I think we have Brad Marcus. Brad, how are you doing? And what is your question for Tommy or myself? There you go, Brad.
Hey, D'Lo. Hey, Tommy.
What's up, man?
Tommy, first off, I want to say you need to get back on Impractical Jokers. But my question for you is, it seems like you're having a ton of fun and impact. Has there ever been a point in your 30 years where wrestling wasn't fun and it was more work?
My last 6 months in WWE in 2008, 9, I actually started not liking wrestling. And that's why I quit the WWE. Dude, I had just signed a brand new contract and I did not like going to work anymore. And I literally started hating something that I've loved since I was 9 years old. And I couldn't do it because I was just like, I have to leave this relationship because I would never want to be that sour, bitter wrestler. And it was turning me that way. So seriously, like like I hated going to work, and it was nothing because of the people. It was just literally behind the scenes BS. And I get it. It's a job, but I mean, I hated professional wrestling just because I felt like it was personal. And I learned, there's a lot of reasons for stuff, but to answer your question, it was then. And I left, I bet on myself. And that's when I went to Impact a long time ago. And my first feud was with Bubba. And then I got to wrestle AJ Styles. And for the first time in a long time, I felt nervous again in the ring when I wrestled AJ. But that nervous was a good nervous energy. And I was just like, I had something to prove, and I still have something to prove at 50. So to answer your question, that and all those things that go through my head currently now, wrestling with someone like, I know Rich Swann is better than me. I know Rich Swann is better than me in my prime. But these are all things that I have to think about. So to answer your question, yes. And I also think, I don't know how much longer I'll be wrestling, but when I do retire, I think I will be or die, it will be on my tombstone that I pulled Q's pants down, because everyone talks about that. And I think Impractical Jokers is the new Law and Order, where there's a television law that says an episode of Impractical Jokers has to be on 24/7 throughout the world, because it's always on television.
It's always on. Well, thanks, guys. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thanks, bud.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your questions.
Well, Brad, thank you very much. D'Lo, Tommy, thank you guys very much. We had a 90-minute press pass today. D'Lo, I'm going to turn it over to you for a 15-second final thought as we wrap it up for today.
Well, I'd like to say thank you, everybody, for joining us. Great questions, great insight. Tommy, thank you for being with us today. It was great to dive into your mind and get a feel of how you're feeling right now. So with that, I appreciate everyone, and let's do it again. Let's do it again soon.
Tommy, we appreciate your time. I give you 15 seconds, but you got to throw in there as well. Should you win at No Surrender, what kind of Oreos will be at the victory party?
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this, and thank you, honestly, from my entire journey. I've been blessed. I was at the first ever WrestleMania. I'm a fan just like you guys are, and just blessed to still be doing this. And if I do win, it will be the Brookio Oreo, because they are off the charts, the best cream alone that you could eat. And I may have recently ate an entire bag of them and then said, crap, I don't know if I could face Rich Swann because I'm over 280 pounds.
Tommy, bring a bag of those, and I'll hold on to them for you at the announce desk. Okay, but there might only be a couple left by the time the match is over. Just saying.
Next level, guys.
All right, media, we thank you very much for joining us today, and I apologize to the few of you that we didn't get to. Obviously, we went overtime, and I appreciate Tommy and D'Lo's time and willingness. So, again, February 13th, No Surrender. Rich Swann puts the title on the line against Tommy Dreamer. Thank you.